Have you ever sent an email that you thought was perfectly clear, only to have to deal with the chaos of a total misunderstanding later? Or maybe you've sat in a meeting where everyone was nodding along, but you all walked out with 5 different versions of the plan. Yeah, you are not alone. See, ineffective communication isn't just frustrating, it's this massive, hidden drain on our productivity and our success. And that's why we're going to break down the workplace communication model, giving you a powerful blueprint to make every single interaction you have clearer, more effective, and way more successful.
First, we'll start by looking at the staggering cost of getting this stuff wrong. Then, we'll introduce your blueprint, the model itself. From there, we'll walk through how to craft and deliver your message, cover the absolutely crucial step of closing the feedback loop, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with how you can become a more intentional communicator starting, well, today.
So first things first, let's talk about those hidden costs. Because, poor communication isn't just some minor annoyance. It's a real systemic issue with very real consequences that quietly sabotage project timelines and directly hit your company's bottom line.
Want to put a number on it? According to some pretty recent research, the annual cost of poor communication to US companies is just staggering. We're talking up to $2 trillion. No, that is not a typo. $2 trillion. That number represents lost productivity, delayed projects, and missed opportunities, all of it stemming from messages that just didn't land the way they were supposed to.
So where does a cost that huge even come from? Well, this chart here shows it pretty clearly. According to the Economist Intelligence Unit, a mind-blowing 44% of all project failures are a direct result of miscommunication. Just think about the last project that went off the rails in your organization. The odds are almost 1 in 2 that a communication breakdown was the root cause. And honestly, the financial cost is just the tip of the iceberg. It creates this huge ripple effect. Productivity tanks because of rework and missed deadlines. When employees feel unheard or just plain confused, they disengage, and that leads to higher turnover. Misunderstandings trigger costly mistakes that drain precious resources. And, with every single breakdown, the very foundation of your company culture, trust, it just starts to erode.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's big, it's expensive, and it is everywhere. But there is a solution. We're now going to introduce your blueprint for success, a simple but really powerful framework called the workplace communication model.
So what is this model really? Well, think of it like a map. It shows the journey a message takes from one person to another, and this is the important part. It highlights all the points where that journey can break down. This is not some complex academic theory. It's a practical framework you can use every single day to figure out what's going wrong and to stop misunderstandings before they even start.
So our blueprint is built on 6 core components. It all starts with the sender, who creates the message. That message gets delivered through a medium, to a receiver. Then, to make sure it was actually understood, we need a feedback loop. And all along the way, we have to watch out for something called noise and distortion. We're going to break down every single one of these.
Let's start right at the beginning. Everything kicks off with the person who's initiating the communication. That's the sender. And the information they are trying to get across, the message. Seriously, getting these first 2 parts right is half the battle.
The single most common mistake a sender makes is something called the curse of knowledge. We just assume everyone has the same context that we do. We get so deep in our own work that we forget that other people aren't. So what's the best practice? Simple. Never assume. Start by clarifying the purpose of your communication and give the essential background info. It might take an extra 30 seconds, but it can save you hours of confusion down the line.
Okay, now for the message itself. An instruction like, handle this quickly, feels urgent, sure. But what does it actually mean? Does quickly mean in 5 minutes or by the end of the day? Who else needs to be involved? The best practice is to be clear, concise, and action-oriented. Please respond to the client by 2 p.m. today and copy me on the email. That leaves absolutely zero room for misinterpretation. It's specific, it's measurable, and it's accountable.
Okay, so you've got a clear purpose and a really well-crafted message. Now, how do you actually get it to the other person? This brings us to the next 2 components, the medium you choose and the person on the other end, the receiver.
The medium you choose is so much more than just a delivery system. It actually shapes the message. The common mistake here is a total mismatch. For example, delivering complex, critical feedback over a quick, instant message, that is a recipe for disaster because that medium completely lacks the nuance and the tone required. The best practice is to match the channel to the content. A quick update might be perfect for chat, but a sensitive conversation? That probably requires a face-to-face meeting or at least a video call.
Communication isn't just about sending information, it's about how that message is received, and that means we need to talk about listening. Way too often we're guilty of what's called passive listening. We hear the words, but we're really just waiting for our turn to speak. Active listening, on the other hand, is a total game changer. It's about focusing completely on the speaker, paraphrasing what you've heard, like, "So what I'm hearing is," and asking clarifying questions to make sure you have the full picture. This doesn't just prevent misunderstandings, it builds trust like crazy.
So we've now covered the sender, the message, the medium, and the receiver. But you know what? The process still isn't complete. The final two components are what truly guarantee that the message sent is the message that was actually understood, closing the feedback loop and managing noise.
This is the fundamental question that gets us to the feedback loop. If you're just broadcasting information without ever checking for understanding, you're just delivering a monologue. Effective communication is always a dialogue. It's got to be a two-way street.
So how do you create that dialogue? Well, it starts by changing your questions. Instead of saying, "Does that make sense?" which almost always gets it simple yes, ask open-ended questions like, "What are your thoughts on how we should approach this?" Paraphrase to confirm you're on the same page. After a meeting, send a quick summary with clear action items. And maybe most importantly, create a culture where people feel psychologically safe to actually ask questions.
And finally, let's talk about the ultimate saboteur of communication: noise. In this model, noise isn't just sound. It's literally any factor that gets in the way of your message being received clearly. Our job as intentional communicators is to anticipate and minimize this noise wherever we possibly can.
Now, noise comes in four main types. Physical noise is the easy one to spot: a bad connection on a video call or construction happening right outside the office. Psychological noise is internal. Maybe the receiver is stressed about a deadline and just can't focus on what you're saying, or has a pre-existing bias about the project. Then there's semantic noise, which is all about the words themselves, using acronyms or jargon a new hire wouldn't understand. And finally, you've got organizational noise, which is systemic, like when nobody knows who makes the final call. That creates confusion that blocks clear communication.
So, we've walked through the entire blueprint. We've seen how a message is created, sent, received, and then confirmed. What's the one big idea you should walk away with? It's all about shifting from being an accidental communicator to an intentional one.
If you remember just one thing from our time today, let it be this quote: "Meaning is not what is said, meaning is what is understood." This simple idea is a complete game changer. It shifts the responsibility for clarity from the listener over to the sender, to you. The success of your communication isn't measured by what you intended to say, it's measured by your audience's actual comprehension.
So I'll leave you with this one question. Think about the next email you have to send, the next meeting you have to lead, or the next piece of feedback you have to give. Based on this blueprint we've just discussed, what is the one communication you will make more intentional today?